So, Mercury in contact with Pluto in Synastry or composite charts. I'm not gonna really talk about specific aspects. Take this as a general insight and analysis upon what those two tend to create and have in common in terms of usual manifestation, aside of the aspect itself. This is just a more general look at what these two archetypes, when combined, tend to generate. And so, Mercury in contact with Pluto, it's a very intriguing aspect. Um, we're talking here about Mercury, which is an energy that represents our mind, our speech, our communication, our ability to perceive what's around us. It's like our pair of eyes and what we absorb as information and process in thought forms. So we talked about sun, we talked about moon, and now we're talking about much more of an objective form of understanding our realities. So there's that idea of Mercury representing kind of the lower aspect of the mind, which is about the objective side, the one that processes details and minutia and all of that, facts. And then there's the higher part of the mind, which usually we tend to see in the Jupiter symbology and concept, which is much more about providing meaning and purpose, right? Learning, higher learning from what Mercury kind of absorbs in terms of information. So we have this aspect of us that is about processing a lot of different circumstances and factors of our own selves and of those that surround us. And then we have Pluto coming in here, which is about transformation, change, trauma, control, obsession. Kind of, this is one of those aspects where Pluto kind of is able to infiltrate very silently and subtly. It moves their way around the mind of Mercury. And Mercury, many times, as an energy, starts having, there are certain thoughts that start coming up and being aroused by a very magnified, unexplicable source of information. So there's usually the aspect that Mercury is used to that deals with their objective sense of where they are kind of gathering info. And then there's that other side that they are very used to, which is their thought process and patterns and the way they express themselves outward. There's that usual way. And then when this contact is formed, you can start to see that the Mercury energy has a very subtle, gradual, but consistent kind of change in the way they think, in the way they communicate, in the way they perceive, again, what's around them, even in the way they what usually is like they start to be curious about aspects of life and the nature of relationships that usually they wouldn't be curious about. This is about, this is for me is one of those aspects that can bring, of course, mental manipulation, a lot of mental manipulation. That's one of the lowest expressions of what this contact can bring, is immense mental manipulation. And sometimes the Mercury energy can be used in such a way that it's like a puppet, right, of Pluto's intentions and desires, of what they want the Mercury person to kind of do, learn, say. Pluto finds Mercury, and the way they're able to, in a way, usually this contact uh, happens because of the nature of Pluto's own difficulties or blocked, repressed energies in terms of communication and in terms of their own um, ability to express truth. Because for me, even though this is not usually what you find, but for me, Mercury is also about. There's two aspects of Mercury, in my opinion. There's the Mercury energy that deals with kind of the trickstery, right? Because the mind can be on its own a very deceitful weapon. It can be a powerful one as it can be deceitful. The powerful one is a combination, in my opinion, of truth, being able to find truth, see truth, speak truth. So it is as the Mercury energy here, in my, of course, personal analysis, observation, and experience, it is felt as for the Pluto person, and the Pluto is very intrigued as well and interested in what the Mercury energy brings here to the table, because it is as if they know that the Mercury energy could tell them the truth, could open them up, their subconscious, to truth, to clarity, to enlightenment, to acknowledgement of parts of own Pluto's psyche, trauma, undealt issues they cannot verbalize and fully comprehend, because the Mercury is an energy of analysis as well. So it is as Mercury can look at Pluto and pin down, exactly what's there, right? That it's like connected dots. It is as the Pluto energy is like a map of complexities that Mercury, in a way, is able to simplify, or at least help the Pluto energy rearrange in a way that is simplified and lightened up the way they tend to look at themselves and also look at their own reality. Now, this is also one contact. Again, there can be a lot of manipulation, as there can be a lot of learning, a powerful ability to learn from each other. It's like to open your eyes and your soul and your mind all together to dimensions of life and relationships and all of it that, again, you were so unaware of. And Mercury forces the awareness in a way, because it is what it is about. As on the contrary, the moon that we previously talked is like a very unconscious force. It's about the inner workings. It's about the feelings, and feelings cannot be easily objectified and analyzed and simplified. As what we're talking about here is about learning. Here is about seeing the world, seeing people, seeing love, seeing whatever you're both interested about, which usually there's a high degree of knowledge and again, curiosity sparked about everything that the Pluto and the Mercury nature are all about. So you can see this aspect in one of the highest forms, of course, bring here two energies that combine themselves in a way where there's this bottomless amount of interest that's always being renewed, and more things are again aroused and brought up to the surface. So it's very hard to find or ever find these two when in contact, to be bored, to be boring, to be uninteresting, to be dull, to be stuck, to be someone's, to be in someone's company or talking with someone that does not, bring up anything new to the table. The Pluto and Mercury contacts, in my opinion, are always bringing something new to the table, and this is what it makes it so attractive in a way, especially for when the Mercury person is or usually has already on its own a very curious nature. If basically if it is a personality that it's highly mercurial, someone that has a lot of Gemini or Virgo, or just it has a heavy influence on Mercury on their natal chart. Especially for those types, this is one of those aspects that are going to enhance that already very mercurial energy and power present in one's chart, and kind of transform what's in a way wrong there, what's faulty there, what's incomplete there, what's dry there, because Mercury can be a very dry, detached energy, and Pluto is about attachment and passion and a lot of desire. So the dry mind, or the aspect of the mind that can be so detached from meaning and feeling in a way, or passion. Mercury becomes a passionate thinker and communicator and writer or singer or whatever the Mercury person, a teacher, journalist, whatever the Mercury expression is for the individual, which usually Mercury, people that are heavily influenced by Mercury energy, they tend to have some sort of intellectual kind of activity, or at least interest again. Pluto helps here the Mercury person become more active in the pursuit of their interests, and do so in a way that it's not about just receiving information for the sake of receiving information. It's actually, information starts to be like this big tool to profoundly affect and transform Mercury's life in ways that you would never consider such mercurial things to be able to promote those changes. For me, is that aspect of the magician in the tarot. It is, Mercury is already that kind of magician energy, but depending on how the Mercury is functioning. So it's like, because the magician is about not only the mind, but the magical element that is added to the mental expression of what we want to manifest. And for that to happen, there has to be this huge, it's not just about thinking it, you have to feel it. You have to have such a desire to manifest from the mind space that you already see it happening. You already feel like it's, again, truth, even if it's not presently in the time frame, in the present time, yet manifested. You see it and feel it and know it as truth, as it is already there. So this is an aspect of a little bit of the magician trait, in my opinion, where both suddenly become huge sources of it's like they become masters of mental awareness, sometimes manipulation and control. And this is one where also we can see some stalking, some very obsessive traits when it comes to investigating, again, all the information you can gather about each other. So it's like you might be with this person and go out with them and talk with them, and then come home and still going to search, or think at least, in deeper ways, or search what's out there more to know about this person. So it's never enough. The issue here is like it's never enough, and there can be you never know enough about this person. And so what this sometimes also creates is that this compulsion and violation in a way of mental barriers or boundaries that should exist between two people, because we are entitled to share in our own time and as much as we want. So the Pluto energy itself, and sometimes also the Mercury, can have a hard time backing out, right? Holding themselves where they belong. It's like they can be too they can investigate too much, and kind of again push too much, to know too much too soon, or to have this again feeling like they need to keep digging and digging and digging and digging to access the secrets of that person's intriguing mind that are driving them crazy. Because usually what this also happens is that both start to be so mentally obsessed that they think about each other all the time. They're constantly mentally connecting, for better or for worse. So it's like, even when, if this is being a friendship or being a love, romantic contact, like you can be away from this person, be mad with this person, not want to see this person anymore, and you keep thinking about them and feeding thoughts about them and searching for information about them, because again the bottomless aspect of knowledge that comes from here, there's always going to be more to find out about each other, because what does Pluto represent as well? The underworld, right? So digging is a Pluto thing, and there's always, when you dig, you can be digging, this is one of those aspects where you can be digging a little bit here for your grave, because it's like you can get in so deep in knowing that then it's hard to come back from that. You know that saying that ignorance is bliss? Well, in this context, you can end up realizing that you wish you didn't know so much, or you wish you would have had some restraint or control before going to this kind of wanting to know all there is to know about each other. And of course, because Mercury is going to see, the Mercury representation here is going to see facets that are very uncomfortable, right, and disturbing, that deal with the Pluto stuff. Pluto is about trauma, crisis, death, rebirth, emotional attachments, and control and manipulation. It's all about the shadow elements. And Mercury, it's an air element, right? It's one that enjoys actually a lot of freedom and constant contact. It does not like to be controlled and bogged down to a specific fixed energy. And Pluto is a fixed kind of energy, and so it can get like muddy, very muddy, very difficult for the Mercury butterfly energy. It's like the butterfly turning into more of a moth, right? Like the butterfly aspect of the day, the colorful, free, beautiful one, and then there's the butterfly of the night, let's say, and which could be seen more as a moth. So even Mercury can start to have darker thoughts. They can start to think much more again about death, sex, the occult, taboo kind of issues and energy that they didn't really want to think about before this Pluto expression came into their life and kind of erased here some patterns of thinking and filters that were not working in a way for the Mercury's best interest and potential, but they were their safety net, and we all have our safety net when it comes to what we allow, how far we allow ourselves to go when it comes to knowledge again and understanding of others. It's like not everybody is suitable and capable to know all there is to know about someone, because that is going to have a very disturbing effect on us, because we tend to look at people that we love and care about, or even the world itself, and we create an image uh, of what that is or who that is. And of course, that as the bonds develop, we're always going to see different facets of someone's personality, but we don't ever know everything, right, there is to know about someone, because as well we're always changing, and we always have that ability to change and shift and transform into someone else. But this is one aspect that it is like, no, but I know incredibly all that exists to know about the Pluto energy and whatever that Pluto specifies for the Mercury. Mercury's interest, intelligence, and curiosity, again, in truth or lie. Again, there's this issue just with mental manipulation that needs to be very cautiously perceived, because we can see here when this is like a couple dynamic, we can see usually the Pluto energy, but it can take turns, of course, but usually we see the Pluto expression and energy controlling Mercury's mind in a way where Mercury starts realizing really where they begin and they end when it comes to their opinions, right? Because Pluto's effect can be such one, and when it's wrongly used, it can again affect the mind of Mercury in a way where if they want Mercury to do something wrong or to say something that in reality Mercury does not want to say or do, they can have that kind of spell. Not to say that the Mercury is weak-willed, right? And it does not have the power to take away the Pluto effect or hold back. But usually, it's not a matter that it's weak-willed, the Mercury is weak-willed. It's a matter that Mercury doesn't realize what is happening unless when usually it's already happening. It's too late in a way, of course. Then it starts that dynamic of Pluto wanting the Pluto and the planet, in this case Mercury, wanting to or needing to make some separation to really, or at least distance a little bit here because of this intensity that it's formed usually. So they need to kind of retreat a little bit to really look at things, to look at things in a way that are more objective. And that's what the Mercury is about. But they can get so intertwined in each other's thoughts usually, that it's really hard. This is one that it's kind of hard to also, you would think that the mind or the Mercury Pluto wouldn't have that much influence, because we hear much more, right, about the moon and the sun and the Venus, because of their association with a lot of emotional and sexual and romantic energies. But if we think about it, where usually the desire, the intention at least, to be with someone starts in the mind. It's like you put a seed in the mind, and then that grows and it starts growing and growing, and you see, and it has taken all your mind space, right? So even if it's not yet in the heart, if it's not yet something physically, a bond that is physically formed, it's going to be felt as real as it was, because it takes so much space out of your mind that you start being in a relationship even without being in one, because of the element as well of, as I said, of obsession that's created. And usually this is one where the voice of each other, right, the words that are voiced as well, not only it is one of those aspects where they really enjoy hearing each other's voice. That's a very powerful turn on, such as the words, the way they again verbalize their thoughts to each other, the way they write to each other. All of that is like incredibly powerful. So I hope I was able to provide some insight into this Mercury Pluto aspects in a general, of course, sense. As I said, this is not bow down to any specific aspect. I was just, talking about a whole of what usually in any aspect issues that can come. One, of course, there are aspects where the challenge is more, usually is more, the tendency to find the challenging elements is much more normal, let's say, or usual, as for example the positive aspects enhance a lot of the positives that this aspect can bring. But always when those two are mixed in the same formula, all the description that I just gave, you can see a lot of points here that usually are felt aside of any aspect. So it has been a while since I've done a Pluto aspect to a personal planet video. I enjoy doing so. It was easier than I thought it would be. And yeah, let me know what you think about your experience with this aspect, and hopefully I'll be back anytime soon doing more Pluto planet contact. Probably the next one will be the very also famous one, Venus Pluto. So hopefully we'll see each other and talk with each other soon.